Well, welcome everyone. I'm so glad to have you here. I'm Madeline Brand. I'm host of Press Play here at KCRW. And for those of you who are not familiar with KCRW's Young Creator Project, it's a submission-based series we've been hosting since March, where LA creators under the age of 21 can submit their work to KCRW for the opportunity to be featured across our platforms. So radio, web, social media, everything. And in March, we began with music submissions. In April, we took poetry and storytelling submissions. And this month, we are taking visual art submissions, and we have about a week left. So you have until Tuesday, I believe, at midnight to send in your submissions. So don't forget, you've got all the Memorial Day weekend to work on it if you need to do that. So I would love to know how many of you have already submitted to this program or plan to by the end of the month, and maybe some of you submitted to the other previous programs. If you did, put your answers in the chat. We'd love to see that. Okay, so we are going to have a conversation with three incredible artists here in Los Angeles, and you can ask them anything about art, how they got into it, and any advice they may have for you. They have so much knowledge about visual arts, both at an academic level and a real world, out in the real world capacity. And they all know LA, so they know the creative landscape here in Los Angeles. So put your questions in the chat and we will get to them. So let me introduce our panelists. We have Meg Cranston. She's chair of the Fine Arts Department at Otis College of Art and Design. She's an artist who works across multiple media, including painting, sculpture, mixed media installation, performance, and her work often combines text and imagery from popular culture. You can see her work at MoCA, LACMA, The Hammer, and in collections worldwide. So welcome to you, Meg.
Thank you very much. It's lovely to be here. Look forward to it.
Yeah, great to have you. Up next, we have Katja Farin. She's an LA-based painter whose work investigates how we interact with space and other bodies, both as subjects and as viewers. Welcome, Katja.
Hi, everyone.
And Faye Orlove is an LA-based illustrator and the founder of Junior High LA. Junior High is a beloved local community art space in Glendale, and it prioritizes the expression of female, queer, non-binary artists and artists of color. Welcome, Faye.
Hi.
All right, so I want to begin with a personal history of how you all went from creating art in your bedrooms or whatever, wherever it was when you were young to becoming professional artists. And Faye, let's begin with you.
Oh my gosh, why would you start here? Great. Well, I am a big fan of the acronym PYOT, put yourself out there. I've been doing that as long as I can remember. I suggest myself for a lot of things and do a lot of work for friends. And I think how it started transitioning into an actual paid profession for me was saying yes to things I didn't know how to do and then Googling how to do them and just like smiling through it. I got a job as an animator when I moved to LA based on like 2 or 3 GIFs I had made for a personal project. I was the only artist, it was at Fox Animation Domination. It was the only artist who did not go to UCLA, and I was very terrified, pretty much faked my way through it. But it was definitely a case of like PYOT. If they don't like what I'm doing, they can fire me. So it's a lot of taking risks and a lot, I'm not like an advocate for doing work for free, but it's a lot of self-motivation and a lot of doing work. It was for me anyway, for friends, for whoever would ask for no pay or maybe a beer, because I was probably 19 at the time. And eventually those same friends, they started getting more noticed, and I would do artwork for projects who at the time had no traction, but then they got built up, I got built up. It's a lot of networking, a lot of putting yourself out there. I don't like the term networking. It's just a lot of making friends.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's all hustle is what you're saying.
Hustle. And yeah, I don't think there's shame. The term networking sucks, but I don't think there's any shame in making friends. And like, I think your personality is just as big of a draw as your talent, and talking to people and being in community and helping others is a great way to put yourself out there.
And Katja, what about you? How did you become a professional artist?
It took, I mean, yeah, it's been a very weird journey for me. I started drawing and stuff as a kid, and then in high school kind of was like, this is really fun, and got introduced to oil painting. And then kind of on a whim decided, I was like, okay, like I'll go to art school, I'll try this out. And I went into it thinking like, oh, maybe I'll do other things and not just paint, because that's what I was used to. And so then I went to UCLA and just fell in love with painting, and I just didn't want to stop doing it. And that's kind of been my motivation, is that it's just something that I like can't live without. And like no matter what happens, I'll always be doing it. And I think that's like the biggest thing for me, is that like it's just like you just keep doing what you love, and like maybe things come out of it, maybe they don't, but at least that's your driving force. And then after college, I was working as an art handler pretty much until the pandemic started. And so that job gave me a lot of flexibility with my time schedule, because I would work for 2 weeks and then not work for 2 weeks. So I'd have 2 weeks without the studio and then 2 weeks in the studio. So I could really like manage my time well. And I think that gave me an opportunity to really just kind of dive into the working process. And then I got a show at In Lieu, my gallery in LA, basically through Instagram, because I was just promoting myself and like posting things and just being like, look at what I'm doing. And like kind of, not like to a crazy degree, but just like kind of putting things out there. And they just like noticed me and then asked me to do a group show. And then that snowballed into bigger things. But yeah, that's pretty much how it happened.
Wow. Meg, what about you?
Well, even as a kid, I just wanted to do whatever I wanted. And I just thought, whatever I choose in life, I have to be able to do whatever I want. And I was of course, really inspired by other artists. I loved, I don't know, I was very inspired by Rudolf Nureyev, I have to say. When I saw him dance as a young child, I said, yeah, that looks like a job. And other jobs just didn't. I just said, I'm not going to do something else, whatever that costs me, it's my young self. And so I studied ballet, I wrote, I made art, I just did whatever I, put on plays, that kind of thing. And then when I went to college, I studied, I thought I was going to be a writer. I went to Kenyon College, and but then that seemed awfully limiting. I hated English class. It's like, oh, I have to deconstruct this thing. I don't want to do that. I want something even bigger than that, so I studied anthropology. I thought that was the biggest thing I could find, the most possibilities of being introduced to the way people could live, or the way I could live. But then I found out, anthropology, you have to be an academic. That sounded like a drag. So then I said, I'm going to go to art school. So I wanted the most far out art school there was. And that for me, the one I found was Cal Arts. And I don't even know how I got in, actually, because I had like writings and clipping. I mean, it was not the conventional portfolio, let's put it that way, but they accepted me. And I just went from there. And I managed to, as the other artists have said, it's a lot about making friends and living the life. And I've always wanted to live the life. I wanted to live the artistic life. That was clear to me from very, very young. And I guess you do pay for that, but not that much considering what you get. So I have a very positive view about making the choice of being an artist. I'm very glad I made it.
I just want to ask you this one question before we get into seeing a work from each of you, kind of a transformative work. I believe what we're going to see, a work that means a lot to you in your journey as artists. But I want to ask you just briefly, do you think you have to go to art school to be an artist?
Are you asking all of us?
I'm asking all of you.
No.
Meg, we'll start with you. Since you're running the fine art department at Otis.
No, I mean, if you just look at the numbers historically, most people have not gone to art school. Art schools, as we know it, are a pretty recent phenomenon. I think you do need to be in a situation where you can learn from other artists.
Mm-hmm.
You need a community, so art schools, for a lot of reasons, are now that place, because it's hard just to like move to a neighborhood and meet a bunch of artists. That's got to do with the real estate market.
Yeah.
So schools tend to be like that, but you don't have to do that, but you do have to know artists, and you do have to be willing to learn from them.
Katja, you went to UCLA, right?
Yeah, I don't think that it's necessary at all. I think that I was in a place that really needed that community and that guidance at that time, because I also like wasn't sold on only doing art. Like I was like, there's so many other things I want to do, and UCLA like allowed me to kind of explore other options, even though I didn't really do that too much. I kind of just was painting the whole time. But I don't think that it is necessary to be an artist, because being an artist isn't about your education. It's about how you think and how you engage in the world, more than like what a degree can do. Like they can help you if your goal is to do something specific. It's like school can help with those things, but it's like not necessary to like find what you want and like be happy.
Faye?
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. I think it's all about the people and if you surround yourself with other artists and people who are going to challenge you and encourage you and eventually maybe pay you, that's what it's all about. If you get that at school, great. If you get that by going to a community space, by taking extracurricular classes, by hunkering down at a coffee shop and waiting to see who shows up, whatever. Yeah, I think what I got out of school was friends that encouraged me above all.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you have brought a piece of work each, and this work marks a significant turning point in your careers and in your trajectory as artists. And so I want each of you to share it and talk about it. First up, we'll be talking about Meg's piece. It's called Palette Painting. And we are going to, there it is. Meg, what does this painting mean to you?
Well, I just made it not that long ago, so it was a turning point painting, though. As I said, I always like this like limitless ideas. So I wonder, like, why do we have so few choices in government? Socialism, democracy, oligarchy. We should have more choices. And so in my work, I always look for ideas that could generate maybe like 1,000 paintings or 1,000 artworks. And so what happened with this painting, I read a letter from Vincent van Gogh to his brother, and he said that artists should not, the best painters do not use what's called local color. Local color means painting things the way they look, right? So that they should paint from their palette. So whatever concoction they make on their palette, that's what people are going to be. So he painted a painting of his mother with a green face, right? But it looks fantastic in the painting. So I really like that idea. So I look for these limitless ideas, and I thought, well, okay, can we take it one step further? Van Gogh made 900 paintings with that idea. But now what could I do? So I thought, well, maybe the palette is the painting. So it was like one of the dumbest ideas I have ever had, and possibly, I think at the moment, one of my best. So I was afraid to show this painting, but I really like it. So on the left side, you see every painting I make is made from the same colors. Like most artists, they're all made from the same colors. So they're the colors I use, red, yellow, blue, black and white. And then I just mixed them and any way I wanted and put it on the painting. And I was like, my paintings not usually take an hour, but this one did. And it is my favorite current painting. And I think I could make 1,000 of these. And I guess if you like painting, you might like this because you see what it means is that every painting maybe is actually a palette painting. So that's my philosophy of painting.
Oh, that's so interesting. I mean, you said you don't like deconstruction, this literary idea from the 80s, but this is, it seems to me, a visual deconstruction of a painting.
Well, it's the basic components of painting, you know, it depends on your point of view, you know, so even every painting comes down to this, comes in some ways to this. And so I wish I could see more of artist palettes. Very interesting, very instructive of how, and I love to mix color. I mean, students will say, could I just, they're nervous to make a painting because they say it's about nothing. And I'll say, well, what is it? What did you do? She goes, well, I mixed color and I was mushing it around the canvas and it just looked fantastic. I was like, that kind of is painting. Among other things, among other things. So I don't always make abstract paintings, but this one was, it's very liberating. This was a liberating painting for me.
All right, Katja, you're up next. You sent us a piece. It's called Mosquito Net. And there it is.
Yeah.
Tell us about this one.
Yeah, this painting was for a show I had in lieu in LA in 2021. The years are just flying by. And this show was called Hum of Virtue, and the show was kind of one of the first shows that I really had a lot of time with all of the work and a lot of like a concrete kind of idea of like what I wanted them to be. And the show was basically I started reading about this nun, Hildegard von Bingen, and she wrote this play called The Order of Virtues. And then I made a book that I kind of rewrote that because it was talking about what's right and what's wrong and kind of these like huge, like good and bad. And I was like, no, everything's a little bit more gray. And this painting was really pivotal for me because I just had a lot of fun making it. And it kind of is like introducing this new pattern in my work of just more like whimsical, like kind of nothing makes sense kind of atmosphere that's happening. And the whole show, all of the paintings were kind of based around like using bugs and insects as like to describe a relationship between a person and the self or a person and others, because most of my work is about like interpersonal relationships. So you have this figure inside the mosquito net with all these mosquitoes flying around. And yeah, it was just like such a fun piece to make. And I was experimenting and kind of pushing the boundaries of what I normally thought that I wanted to make. And yeah, it was just really fun. And
what's the medium or media?
It's oil paint.
Oh, it's all oil. Okay.
Yeah, it's all oil. So I did airbrush with oil and a mask. Like I didn't like harm myself too much. You're not supposed to spray oil paint. But yeah,
I didn't know you could use airbrush and oil.
Yeah, because basically you can't put acrylic on top of oil. So either you do all the airbrushing first and then do the oil, but it kind of, ruins the effect.
That's so cool.
But yeah, like I feel like my work is kind of now transitioning more into like this kind of whimsical like situation.
Love it. All right, Faye, you're showing something else, a music video that you directed and illustrated for Mitski, her song called Townie. So we're going to share a short clip of that. Oh, it's so cool. Talk about that one.
Yeah, well, I was thinking of when you said a project that was kind of a turning point. That project came to mind. I did it so long ago, but I think it has just been representative of my whole like ethos to work with your friends and people around you. And at the time, I mean, Mitski's always been wildly talented, but she wasn't the star she is today. I think I got paid $400 for that music video, which took me probably about 2.5 months. But it's the project to this day. Most people are like, oh my God, you made that video. People have gotten tattoos from it. Just cool, amazing things where I'm like, who knows where the people you surround yourself with and the people you are kind and open to, like, who knows where their careers will go. And it just reflects like so proudly on me that I got to say, oh yeah, like I knew Mitski before she was famous. But yeah, that seems to be like most of my projects. I would say I like, since I started junior high, I veered a little bit away from visual art as much, just don't really have as much time to be like, yeah, I'll make my friend's band a t-shirt. But that was my entire life for years and years. And it's just been so wondrous to like have recognition for my work alongside seeing people like Japanese Breakfast, who I made stickers for 10 years ago, is now on SNL, and like Charlie Bliss, who we worked together on merch, and just all these bands that are now like doing amazing things. And it's just feel like they're proud to see what I'm doing, and I'm proud to see what they're doing. And that's just been such like a cool opportunity for me. I've always been really proud of the people I surround myself with, and anyone who will call me a friend, I'm like, that feels so special.
Well, tell us a little bit more about junior high.
Yeah, you might see a cat in a second. Yeah. So yeah, there's Wayne the Cat Johnson.
There he is. Or she.
We don't really see gender in this home. So
okay, there they are.
Yeah. Well, my cats are named after Fast and Furious characters. Junior high started in 2015. I lived in Boston for 6 years and moved to LA and was just really sad. On the East Coast, you have like so many places to run into people. I rode my bike everywhere. I was living in a major city. There wasn't a day that went by I didn't bump into someone and then start an adventure. And you moved to LA and it was like very driving centric, and I didn't have a car. And I was just like missing that casual sense of community. Everything felt really intentional here. So I was thinking, well, I want to create an intentional community space that has like the ethos of feminist art, feminist visual art, but has sort of the feeling of like casually bumping into a friend at a coffee shop. And that's sort of the idea that junior high was born from, that and a million times being overlooked because my art is too teen girl, or because it was too young, or I hadn't had my work in shows, or whatever the reason that people weren't taking young female artists seriously. So yeah, the idea was like a place where primarily at the time it was all female artists being taken seriously. And it has since kind of veered more into like, as I've progressed, and I think LA and the world has progressed in terms of understanding gender identities and wanting to be more open and thoughtful. I think junior high's kind of pivoted into like a very queer centric space. All of our staff, I don't know how this happened, but they're all non-binary and they all make fun of me and call me their mom. I'm like, I'm not that much older than you.
Oh my gosh, Meg, you and I would be great grandmothers.
It's wild. I'm actually pregnant right now. And I'm like, y'all, I'm going to have a real kid. You got to leave me alone.
Congratulations.
Thank you. But yeah, so that was kind of the idea behind the space. It's evolved so much. It's been 6-7 years or something. We were closed a bit for the pandemic, but it's supposed to be like a space that feels comfortable and like you're supposed to be there and welcoming. And I kind of describe it as like that feeling of being in your like best friend's room in high school where there's like nowhere else that gets it, but like that room gets it.
Very cool. Okay, let's get to some of the questions that we have received from our audience. Here's the first question is, did you experience rejection at the start of your careers? And if so, how did you deal with it? Meg, do you want to start?
Sure. Yes, a lot of rejection, and I continue to experience a lot of rejection. I just got a grant that I applied for 7 times. And, you know, I just kept getting the rejection letters, and I just said, well, okay, then the next year I did it again. And so getting rejection, you know, you're not going to start succeeding till you start failing, you know, start the rejections, let them come quickly. I used to, and but I have over the years shortened my time span of how they affect me. So now it's, okay, that was a no. But in the way to deal emotionally, I think, with rejection is just putting out a lot of asks. How many asks? If you only have 1 ask, that rejection is going to be pretty hard. But if you have 10 asks, you're like, oh yeah, I forgot I even asked for that, but now I've been rejected. You know, so it's not as bad. It is part of it, and you do learn it, and you learn it, and you also watch, you know, again, your fellow artists. Every artist will tell you that you're going to get rejected throughout your career. Someone's always going to be doing better than you and less well as you. So yeah, rejection. You come to, I don't know. I won't say I like it because I sound like a masochist, but I do find it more funny. You know what I mean? It's like year 6 reject. So I was determined to win that one this year. If they didn't, I was going to have a protest march on San Juan Boulevard, which could have been fun.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
Katja.
Yeah, I mean, rejection is just kind of a part of being an artist. And I mean, the amount of residencies I've applied for and like grants, and you know, I don't think I've gotten like a few that I've applied for, but it's always been like, normally the things just kind of like are like, oh, like, hey, do you want to come and do this? And not, you know, but grants is a whole different nightmare. But it's kind of just a part of the process, and it's hard because like making art is such a personal thing, and so you put a lot of, you know, value, and your self-worth gets tied into it. And so it's like, just like what Meg was saying, it's like, just keep sending the applications, like keep doing it, because you're going to get rejected. There's a new panel every year, all of these things. They just like, you just keep trying until you get it. And if you don't get it, then try someone else. Like there's so many options, and it's just part of the process.
Yeah. And Faye?
Yeah, all of that. I also am like a firm believer in creating opportunities for yourself. So if you're not getting accepted into a show, or your work isn't being seen by so-and-so, you know, reach out to a gallery, curate your own show, open a gallery. Like literally, I have no qualifications that should make me allowed to do this. Like if you are living where there's a void and people not respecting or admiring or whatever satisfaction you want from creating the work you're creating, like make it for yourself.
Okay, here's another question. I have a bedroom full of paintings and drawings, and all my friends and family think they are really good, but I have no idea where to start as far as getting them noticed by the art world. Any advice? Who wants that one?
I'll take that one.
Okay.
I don't know. I mean, it sounds cheesy, but it's like Instagram, and make a website, and, you know, if you have a space, try to coordinate open studios, even just with your friends, so people can come look at the work and talk about the work. Because I mean, that's part of the whole fun part of it, is like talking about what you just made. But yeah, really just kind of putting yourself out there and showing people it, because you know, you never know who's gonna like look at your Instagram and like be like, oh wow, this work is amazing. Like I'm gonna hit them up and ask them to do something, or, you know, or like reaching out to people like what Faye was saying, like make your own show, like have a show and put it on. And I mean, I've had so many shows like just at houses, you know, where you just are like, can we just do something together? This sounds fun. So it's about kind of just putting yourself out there and trying stuff out.
That's cool. Yeah, I like that. Anyone want to add in on that?
I just agree. It sounds like you have a whole show there. So, you know, put it up somewhere.
Yeah.
And actually critically, you know, people like to follow stuff that's not, you know, it's a little underground, a little bit unusual. And so, yeah, put it up somewhere and just see who, you know, get some, what, I don't know, some bubbly water and wine and see what happens.
That always helps. Little cheap free wine. Okay, this is a question specifically for you, Meg. You studied anthropology for your BA. How did you transition to earn an MFA after that? How would you apply to grad school if you did not study art for your BA? This is from Violet Ann.
Well, I will say, you know, in terms of going to school, I definitely needed grad school because I hadn't done art undergraduate and I just had, you know, I didn't know what I was doing. How did I get in? Well, how did I transition from anthropology? I don't think I fully did. A lot of the things I studied in anthropology is still a really strong interest of mine. The anthropologist David Grebner is a huge influence on my thinking right now. So there's some of that in my work now. So that and my liberal arts education, it still matters a lot. And then I don't know. I guess I was just ignorant. I didn't really know I needed to know how to draw or anything like that. I'm like, well, you know, let's see how it goes. I only considered applying to 2 schools, and I considered applying to Yale, but then I looked at the booklet and it had no pictures, and I'd already gone to a very conservative school, and I was like, no, I'm not doing this. So I don't know. So it is more difficult now. So getting into graduate school is a strategy. So I don't mean to be so flip. It was easier when I was younger. The strategy for, if people want to know, you know, what's the strategy for that? If you're looking for admission at UCLA or Columbia or one of these, you know, high ranking schools, it's the competition is quite fierce. So for sure you need the help of artist friends who recommend you, teachers, a very good portfolio, and then, you know, just luck.
Is that the same for a BA? The same kind of competition?
For the top schools, yes. I just read a statistic that UCLA has 8 spots for undergraduate admission to their art school. So I think that's got to be wrong, but oh no, I'm sorry, 8%.
Okay. I was like, wait,
and 8%, but 8%, that's the lowest admission rate of any program in the university.
Wow.
So, but there are a lot of other schools besides UCLA. You know, do you need to go to the super name school as an undergraduate? No, not at all. I mean, and we also have fantastic community colleges. Just to speak of Santa Monica College, down that we're at KCRW, has an unbelievable art program, and lots of people have gone that way, or the privates too. So one of the obstacles can be that not every artist also has a 4.5 great GPA. Most of us don't in high school. So, and that's what it takes to get into these top schools. But a lot of the schools, you know, Otis included, and all of the community college things, you know, we look at artists holistically, and so, yeah.
All right, I'm going to skip down to someone who is younger, someone who is still in high school, who says, I'm an introvert, but I'm looking for a community of artists, but I don't know how to find them. What community art spaces exist in LA that are teenager friendly? Faye, is
Can
your
I,
place
can I
teenage
chime
year
in? Yeah.
friendly?
Hi, come to junior high. Well, we actually recently started a very highly attended, super fun figure drawing workshop once a month. So there's send nudes, which is 18 and older. There's a nude model. And then there's no nudes, which is all ages. And also incredible, the same guided instruction, the same like prompts, or you can kind of ignore everything and just listen to music and draw. But I think they're amazing programs and they're monthly. So that's something you can count on. We also have a book club that is not age relevant or anything. Plus, I have genuinely made every single one of my friends in the last 7 years at junior high. Like just, I mean, I'm there constantly, not by choice, but come see bands play, come see comedy shows. I guarantee you will meet your new queer best friend.
That's awesome. Do you, either one of you, Katja or Meg, know of other places for teenagers?
Yeah, I was going to, if I may speak, Venice Arts is a fantastic organization on the West Side. They have classes for pretty young kids, and then really great, like filmmaking classes. I mean, real full-on filmmaking classes for high school students, and learning animation, and they do a great job of fundraising. So it's affordable, and I highly recommend that.
Yeah, and just to add also, like a lot of museums have like education programs, and like MoCA has like a MoCA teen night, which is like a big, it's like a huge production. I remember going in high school and it was like, and I was like, wow, like this is what it could be like. And also LACMA has programs. So it's like looking into those spaces. And I mean, I took a lot of just like figure drawing classes and like just meeting people. I mean, I went to a performing arts high school, so there were already a bunch of artists around me. But the LA like teenage scene, like there's a lot of people out there. You just gotta find them. And junior high is also like a great place to go.
Did you go to Luxa?
No, I went to Champs in Van Nuys.
Yeah, cool. Okay, here's a question for all of you. Do you deal with personal subjects? And if so, does it ever feel less weird to be put on display? Katja, let's start with you.
I'm like, this is
I
my
think that's it.
yeah, no, it's perfect. What's so interesting about making work that, I mean, because most of the figures, like it all looks like me. Like I try to be like, it's not me, but it's all me, because I use myself as like a reference most of the time, as like a lot of artists do. But I don't find it being on display because they don't know my like viewers don't know my personal life and the way I write about it. Like it's personal, but there's parts to me that the paintings have like this very personal moment for me in the painting. But once it's out in the world, it changes. And once it's out of the studio, the paintings change and they take on new meanings, because now they're not just for me, they're for people to see. And I want people to see themselves in the work. And so I'm like actually like inviting people to like experience my personal life, which is maybe not for everyone. It's always weird, especially like at openings, whenever I have to like talk about the work publicly. I'm always, just like talking to people. I'm like, oh yeah, like, I don't know, whatever. But it's like, there's so much in each of the paintings that it's awkward. It doesn't really get less awkward, but it's fun. It's like part of the thing, because I'm pretty much, I'm here every day. Like I go out every now and then, but I'm pretty introverted in some ways. And yeah, it's always strange, but it gets easier, that's for sure.
Meg or Faye, do you want to talk about how weird it is to put yourself out there?
Well, I'm an extrovert, so I love it. Are you kidding? I don't have enough chances on stage. Honestly, I'm more comfortable in that situation than, I guess as part of me as a performer. So I, like other performers, they're more comfortable in being out there. My work is not too much about my so-called personal life, such as it is. But I have found that people will want to interpret it that way, which is, I guess, fine. I say, I guess it's someone like me, but I'm quite similar to others. I'm not particularly unique. And I know that sounds weird because we do focus a lot on art should be about what's unique about you. But I like to find out what's more common in people. It's like almost like a social science sort of study. But you can't explain that when someone comes up to you and says something about your work. So you just have to say thank you. Yeah. I did hear a suggestion. I can't remember the artist's name. She's a great painter, but she did have a suggestion, which I'm going to pass along. How do you get your work out? And her suggestion was go to a lot of things and on your phone, she said you need 4, what she called bangers, 4 killer works on the phone. And someone says, what do you do? What's your work like? Here you go. and that's a genius idea. So even if you're in high school, 4 bangers on that phone. Conversation starter.
I love that.
That is great. Faye?
Yeah, I will say my work isn't super personal. I'm like obsessed with pop culture. I'm literally wearing a Harry Styles shirt. I love drawing the Real Housewives. I think most of my work is about Kim Kardashian. And yet I still hate talking about it. I think it's just up to you who you are as a person. But like Katja, like I'm definitely an introverted person. Like after this, I will sleep very deeply. Probably not talk to anyone until I have to tomorrow. But yeah, I don't know if that ever gets easier if you're the type of person who doesn't really like talking about yourself. I will say the opportunities to talk to like young people or other queer people or other women, personally, I will step out of my comfort zone for the opportunity to maybe like help someone pursue a cool career in the arts.
And why you're here tonight.
Yeah.
All right, let's see. Are there places in LA that you visit for inspiration? And are any of these spaces museums or other types of space organizations, built sites, places in nature, etc.? It's from Kelly Williams. Where do you get inspiration outside of the 4 walls?
I mainly go to nature, or like just going on hikes, going to the beach. I'll just drive to the beach sometimes and just sit there. It's great. And also just like kind of being regularly going to museums. I mean, the Norton Simon in Pasadena, like my studio is really close. It's like 10 minutes away. I go there all the time and just look at the VR painting and, cry and then go home and paint. It's like it's a process, but I think the best thing is like to see work and to go to openings and go to galleries. There's so many here and there's so much good work to be seen. And if you're looking for that inspiration, that's what I always do. Or go back to the basics. I go through all my art books all the time to be like, what am I doing? Like, who can I look at to like make me get out of this rut, and then just like going outside is really helpful.
I endorse that.
I will say I read a lot of memoirs. I'm so inspired by other people, artists or otherwise. I think like 90% of the books I read are about real people, either biographical or autobiographical. And I am consistently inspired. Like I think when I read Just Kids when I was like 17, I must have drawn Patti Smith for like the next 3 years. That was an awakening. Yeah, I feel like I'm just constantly reading about people that I put on pedestals, and it helps me relate to them. And usually I just create work about them. But I'm sure inspiration comes in like a billion different forms.
Meg, anything specifically LA?
Anything specifically LA? Well, I try to go to as many, it's kind of part of my work, my job. I see it as going to the museum. So I love the Hammer summer, I go to LACMA, I go to, the big museums. And sometimes I get lazy and I don't want to go to the, all the gallery shows, and because I don't like to drive, and they're all over the place. So I have a friend who is willing to drive around with me. And I've been doing that actually almost my entire life as an artist. And I got that habit from the artist John Baldessari, who was my good friend. And he went every Saturday until he died to look at art. And he set a pretty high standard. And he'd go all day Saturday. And I would go with him a lot of Saturdays. So I try to have that Saturday habit. I never, even if the show's terrible, you never leave without an idea. At least for me, I'm like, oh, well, everything was really bad, but wow, look at how they use that push pin. That's pretty good. I'll grab that. I go to shows to get ideas and steal ideas. And I agree with Katja. You need to have that stack of books around those records around that, will like flip the switch. Whether it's a Patti Smith record, like, I know that's gonna turn the light bulb on, and we all need our library of things we can rely on to, get us working. Because that's the main thing. How do you keep working? That's the hardest question of all.
Did the pandemic change that? Because you couldn't go out to galleries or museums for a while.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of, it was like, it's like, where am I trying to draw from, and it's really, especially for me during the pandemic, I got very insular, very like, kind of just, at studio every day. I wasn't working, and I was like, oh, I have all this time. And then it was kind of like, well, now what? Like, now I can't. So I was just like doing a lot of walks and like, okay, like, what am I going to paint today? And it was a lot, that work then ended up being a lot about being isolated. And I think that your surroundings really affect, what your work is leaning towards, and, you find other ways to be inspired. And, I found a bunch of artists on Instagram that I started obsessing over, or rereading books that I had, or ordering more books online. There's a lot of books.
That's where I am.
I totally agree with the idea about biographies and films about artists, because it's just not a character that everybody knows about. How do they live? How do we live? How do we survive? And if you don't grow up in a big city where you maybe knew a lot of artists growing up, how are you going to find that out? So I'll watch any artist biography, I have through the pandemic, I had a pretty healthy YouTube habit and Netflix habit.
Didn't we all? Can you recommend anything to watch or read that we should check out? I heartily endorse Just Kids, by the way.
Yes.
So great.
Oh, I don't know. There's so many.
There's
yeah.
Art 21 has a lot of good little like vignettes of different artists, and they have a pretty robust program. And then I also just would look up like artist lectures from different schools. That one's a good one.
Yeah, or watch the film on the blockbuster film, or not blockbuster by artist standards, about Kusama. Watch the film on Basquiat. I would watch the Warhol Diaries. For one, that's on Netflix, I guess. For one, you're going to see Basquiat and Warhol actually painting. And so they're on the ground painting together, having a blast, and that collaboration, and it's so inspiring. And just being so loose with the paint and just having a good time. So yeah, any artist thing. Some of them are not so good, but they're all, and the books, reading biographies, artist biographies.
I feel like put on the spot. I can't think of any, which is insane because I like have bookcases surrounding me, but yeah, for some reason, the big turning point for me was like Just Kids. I was like, I'm obsessed with memoirs.
Yeah. Also Japanese Breakfast, her memoir is great.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. H Mart.
Crying in H Mart.
Beautiful. Yes.
Okay. Was there a point in any of your careers that you would categorize as your quote unquote big break? we kind of touched on that, but if there was like one moment where you thought, okay, this is it now I'm doing it for real.
I can jump in. No, like I feel like I'm still like waiting for that. I don't know. I feel like no matter the ascension of cool projects I get to work on, I'm still just feel like I don't know what I'm doing and I'm just trying my best. And then like maybe one day I'll get a project or something and it'll feel like figured it out. But I don't have anything figured out.
Well, here's a secret. That never happens.
You know, it helps though. Nobody knows what they're doing, and that gets me through every day.
Yeah.
Yeah. For me, it was definitely my first solo show at In Lieu, because that kind of like opened up a lot of things for me, and I got written up in like a critics pick for like Art Forum, and that kind of, a lot of people were able to like see the work, and I'm actually with the person that wrote that piece, we're actually curating a show. She's curating me in a show of my work. So it's not really curating together, but it's like you build these little connections, and over time you just keeps happening, and it's, you know, and like there's going to be dry spells, and there's times where you're like, I haven't gotten a job in so long, like can I still maintain this? And but it's very up and down, but that was definitely like the first time that I was like, oh wow, like I think I can do this if I want to.
Meg.
I guess where I felt when I started showing as an artist, a lot of LA people didn't have a lot of opportunities to show. So we had more opportunities to show in Europe. So my career started really in Germany. And so where I felt I'd gotten to where I want to be was when an artist that I respected a lot bought my work. There's no greater compliment than to have an artist that you admire purchase your work without knowing you know. So I know that's probably, we shouldn't care about the money, but that is a big, it's not about the money. It's the compliment that you know, so that gave me a lot of confidence.
Okay, this is the last question, and I think it's a great one. It's almost an existential question. How do I convince my parents that art is not a hobby?
Why would they think that? Art is everything. You watch TV, you listen to music, you read books, I would just point out whatever they happen to be doing as in their life and say someone/several people had to make that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a hard one, you know. It's art, music, it's not very well known to, you know, everybody. So it's unusual if a parent understands, you know, what the potential is. There's a great deal of money in art, and parents, I don't think they really know that. It's not for not everybody, but it's a gigantic and big industry. And so I don't like to think of it in that terms, but you know, just accept that your parents probably don't know it because they're maybe not familiar with that industry like they are whatever other industry we could talk about. And so maybe, you know, helping to educate them a little bit and educating yourself about that. But yeah, it doesn't go away. I mean, I think my father lived to 93 and he was still like, is it going okay? His dying words. I swear. But he just, you know, he's just from another world, different world, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, when I kind of decided that I was gonna go to art school, like my parents were like, "Ooh, you sure? You sure you want to do that?" And I was like, "I don't know." But you know, I was surrounded by people that were kind of like, "Hey, like this is really cool. Like, are you having fun?" And it like I was like learning so much and just so excited, and you know, continually surprised that it's working out. It's just a constant, like, I can't believe I can still do this. Because it's hard, but it's so fulfilling, and there's so many jobs in the art world, and it's such a big community and a big industry. I mean, it's everywhere. And yeah, I mean, it's like, you're not going to ever convince anyone. You can just show them the facts and just be like, look, this is what, there's options. Like, okay, not everyone's going to be able to, you know, be a solo artist living off their work, but there's so many options that you get to use all of your creativity and like do what you want to do and like be happy.
And you can say, it just makes me happy. Do you want me to be happy?
Yeah.
Get ready for the answer.
Yeah.
It is hard. At some point, every artist has to detach themselves from their parents. There was a point where I had to say to my parents, don't come to my opening. I can't do both things. I can't play daughter and artist here. And they came to understand that. So yeah, good luck everybody with that one.
Yeah, I know. Well, thank you all so much. It's been so much fun and so interesting talking with you and hearing your insights and hearing your stories. So thank you. And thank you for being so inspirational as well. This has been a great night. So
Thank
appreciate
you.
all of you. So that's great. And thank you for showing up. And if you still want to contribute, please do. If you're under 21, go to kcrw.com/youngcreators and submit a piece before Tuesday. So any questions, you can hit up the events team at events@kcrw.org, but definitely get your work in. We want to see it, and we want you to fulfill your huge potential.
I want to see it.
Yes, we all want to see it. So do it. Don't put it off. All right. Thank you all. Have a really great night.